Hello folks, it's Mr. Neil here and welcome to our next session on software development with Python. Before we dive into this session, let's have a wee starter task related to what we looked at last time. So last time we were looking at maths with variables. So what I would like you to go and do is create a new program in REPL called Strictly Dancing on Ice. Strictly Dancing on Ice competitors are scored by 3 judges. Your program is required to take in the score from those 3 judges, find the total and display it, and then it should also find and display the average score as well. So pause the video now and build this program. Okay, let's now have a look at a solution to this program. So this is a solution that I have implemented. We have got 3 input statements at the top here, each asking for a different score. Because we are storing a number, we have to convert that input to an integer. So when we're inputting a number, we always have int then input. We then find the total score by adding up judge 1 plus judge 2 plus judge 3. And then we find the average score by taking that total and dividing it by 3. To output the total and the average score, we use a print statement. But remember, with print statements, we can only concatenate, and that's what the process of adding in a print statement is for. We can only concatenate string with another string. So we have to convert our total score from an integer or a number back into string, and that is why we have got str before it. You might just want to pause the video now and make sure your program is similar to the one that I have, as you will need this later on in the video. Okay, let's now dive into this session's topic, which is selection or decision making. So by the end of this session, you'll be able to predict the result of conditional statements, and you'll be able to write Python code for selection using if and else for 2 different situations. This is again focusing on the processing part of the input process output model, but that processing may then affect the output that the program then shows to the user, and we'll see that as we go through this video. Selection involves a program making a decision based on certain conditions, and we as humans make decisions fairly simplistically all the time. For example, if it's cold, you're going to put a jacket on. If it's 8:15 in the morning, you're going to go to school. If I'm driving my car and the traffic light is green, then I'm going to go. If it's not, I'm going to stop. These are all decisions that we make based on certain conditions. When we are thinking about the conditions in programming, we need to make comparisons. And in order to make comparisons, we need to use these comparison operators. Now, some of these might look familiar to you from maths, some of them are unique to Python. The first symbol, the double equals, is called the equal to operator. And that's when we want 2 values to be equal to each other. For example, if the password that the user enters is equal to ABC, then something is going to happen. We have then got greater than. So if the mark is greater than 100, then something is going to happen. The vice versa is true with the less than. If the percentage is less than 50, something is going to happen. We then have greater than or equal to. So if the age is greater than 15 or is equal to 15, then something is going to happen. We then have less than or equal to. So if the number is less than 49 or equal to 49, something is going to happen. And lastly, not equal to. So if the name is not equal to Steve, something is going to happen. The not equal to and the equal to are the opposites of each other. Let's now have a look at an example of a selection program. Competitors on Strictly on Ice are scored by 3 judges, we know that. Create a program will ask each judge to enter their score and then display the total and average score. Well, we've done that, that's what you did in the starter. The new bit is this: if the average score is greater than 6, then they are in the final. If not, they are in the public vote. Add this functionality to the program. So let's head over to REPL and look at how we add this functionality into the program. So here we are in REPL, and you can see that lines 1 to 3 are asking for the judge's score. Lines 5 and 6 are where we calculate the total and average score, and lines 8 and 9 are where we output the total and average score. So we're now going to add the functionality that will inform the user whether the competitor is in the final if the average score is greater than 6, or if they're in the public vote. So I'm going to add a new line, and I'm going to type in the command if. So the if statement is used to determine that a decision is going to be made. We then need to enter the condition. So in this case, if average score is greater than 6, then we put in a colon. And when you read this back to yourself, the colon represents the word then. So if the average score is greater than 6, then do something. When I press enter on my keyboard, the cursor automatically moves in, it automatically indents. Indentation is crucial in Python. If you do not indent at the correct time, the program won't run. We are indenting here because we want whatever we're going to type here to happen only when the average score is greater than 6. And in this case, we want to print you're in the final. I'm going to hit enter again, and we're now going to think, well, what if the score is less than 6 or equal to 6? So I'm going to hit the backspace bar, and I'm going to type else and another colon, else then. Press enter, I'm automatically indented, and in this case I'm going to print you're in the public vote. So with those 4 lines of code, I can almost read that as a sentence. If the average score is greater than 6, then you're in the final, else you're in the public vote. So let's now run the code and see if we can get both these outputs. Firstly, we're in the final, so we're going to run it, and I'm just going to pick 8, 8 and 8, because then we definitely know the average will be greater than 6, and we get the message, you're in the final. If I run it again with a number less than 6, so if you go 4, 4, 4, the average is going to be less than 4, so we're going to be told we are in the public vote. What I would like you to do now is I would like you to pause the video here and add this functionality to your Strictly Dancing on Ice, making sure of course that your program works and that you get both of the different outputs. Let's have a look at another program that I would like you to have a go at implementing. At the end of S3, students sit numeracy, reading and writing assessments. If their score is over 70, they can go on a reward trip. Create a program that asks the user to enter their name and their score in each test. The program should then output the student's name and a message indicating if they're going on the trip or not. Pause the video now, create a new REPL called Reward Trip, and implement this program. Let's now have a look at a solution for this program. You will notice that this design is very similar to the design that we had for Strictly Dancing on Ice, with a few minor tweaks. Firstly, we start by asking the user to enter their name. We then ask for the numeracy, reading and writing scores, making sure that each of these inputs is converted to an integer. We then calculate the total by adding up the scores for the numeracy, reading and writing tests. Then we calculate the average by dividing the total mark by 3. Lastly, we have our if statement that will determine the message to be displayed to the user. We say that if the average mark is greater than 75, the person is going on the reward trip. Else, they are not going on the reward trip. And we're combining the name entered with the appropriate message. You'll see here on the right hand side of the screen, I've got an example of both somebody that is not going on the reward trip and somebody that is going on the reward trip. Have a wee quick check of your program and make sure it looks like the one that I've got on screen. So in this video, in this session, I've introduced you to selection and making decisions using if-else statements. What I'd like you to now go away and do is complete these 2 challenge tasks. Challenge 4, the biggest room, and challenge 5, password checker. Full details for both these challenges are in the PDFs.